My sister demanded I spend my $14,000 vacation babysitting her 4 kids, or else I shouldn't bother coming. My parents backed her without hesitation. So, I canceled every flight and reservation I'd paid for. Now, they're stranded at the gate. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The migraine started at the base of my skull, a dull throb that promised violence if I didn't close my laptop immediately. It was 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I had just pushed the final code commit for a project that had consumed the last 6 months of my life. My eyes felt like they were packed with sand, and my lower back was a knot of tension that no amount of stretching could unravel. I was 32 years old, a senior software engineer at a major tech firm, and I felt about 80. I sat back in my ergonomic chair, the silence of my apartment wrapping around me. It was a nice apartment, clean, modern, expensive, but lately it had felt more like a prison cell made of glass and steel. I had missed birthdays. I had missed happy hours. I had missed sleeping more than 5 hours a night, all for this release. All for the bonus that had hit my bank account 3 days ago. And all for Christmas. The thought of it was the only thing that had kept me going through the endless sprints and the 3:00 a.m. debugging sessions. The lodge. That's what we called it, even though none of us had ever been there. I had booked it back in July, a sprawling, timber-framed mansion in the mountains, complete with a hot tub overlooking the snow-capped peaks, a chef's kitchen, and enough bedrooms for everyone to have their own sanctuary. It had cost me $14,000. That didn't include the first-class flights I'd booked for my parents, Paige and Luke, or the upgraded economy plus seats for my sister Carla, her husband Jude, their 4 kids, and my younger sister Elsie. It was my treat, my gift, my way of buying a week of peace and connection with a family that I felt was drifting away from me. I wanted us to be close again. I wanted to be the cool aunt, the loving daughter, the sister who made magic happen. I reached for my phone, intending to set an alarm for a reasonable hour, maybe 8:00 a.m. instead of my usual 6:00, when I saw the notification. A message in the family group chat. Family Christmas countdown, Christmas tree. It was from Carla. My thumb hovered over the screen. Usually, Carla only posted in the group chat when she wanted something, or when she was posting a highlight reel of her chaotic life to solicit praise. I tapped it open, expecting a photo of the kids or a countdown meme. Instead, I saw a wall of text. Carla, hey Grace, so Jude and I were looking at the itinerary you sent over. The skiing days look fun, but we realized there's a small issue. The lodge doesn't have a daycare service nearby, and obviously we can't take the quadruplets. Well, not quadruplets, but close enough, haha. Onto the black diamond runs. I frowned, rubbing my temple. The kids were 2, 4, 6, and 8. No, they couldn't ski the big slopes. That's why I had paid extra for the lodge with the massive game room and the cinema. I continued reading. Carla, since you aren't skiing this year, I know your knee was bothering you in the spring, and you're the only one without kids. We figured it makes the most sense for you to stay back at the lodge with them during the days. It'll be great bonding time. Jude and I haven't had a real vacation in years, and Mom and Dad really want to hit the slopes with us and Elsie. So, we've put you down for kid duty from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. Thanks for understanding. Love you. I stared at the screen. The throbbing in my head spiked, turning into a sharp, rhythmic stab behind my left eye. Kid duty, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., every day. I wasn't skiing because I had torn my meniscus in April, yes. But I had planned to spend those days in the hot tub, reading the stack of novels I'd been hoarding all year, getting massages from the mobile spa service I had researched, and sleeping. I had planned to recover. I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly from a mixture of exhaustion and rising irritation. Grace, hey Carla, I think there's a misunderstanding. I'm not coming on this trip to babysit. I need a break too. I booked the lodge specifically because it has a game room so the kids can be entertained while we all hang out, but I'm not watching them for 8 hours a day while you guys ski. You'll need to hire a nanny if you want full-day care. I hit send and waited. I expected a negotiation. Maybe a "can you do one day?" or "we can take turns." The 3 dots bubbled immediately. Carla, a nanny? In Aspen, do you know how expensive that is? We can't afford that on top of gear rentals. Besides, your family. Why? Oh, should want to spend time with your nieces and nephews. You're always working. This is your chance to actually be an aunt. I felt a flush of heat crawl up my neck. I'm always working. The work that paid for the roof over our heads next week. The work that paid for the plane tickets she was holding in her Apple Wallet. Grace, I do want to spend time with them. In the evenings. At dinner, when we're making s'mores, but I am not a daycare center, Carla. I'm exhausted. I need this vacation to rest. I am not babysitting 8 hours a day. I put the phone down, my heart hammering against my ribs. I hated conflict. I hated saying no. But this was too much, even for Carla. The phone buzzed again, and again, and again. It wasn't just Carla now. Paige, Mom, Grace, stop being difficult. Your sister needs this break. She works harder than anyone I know raising those children. Luke, Dad, it's just a few hours, Grace. Don't ruin Christmas over this. You're single, you have no responsibilities. Help your sister out. Carla, if you aren't willing to help with the family, then maybe you shouldn't be part of the family vacation. If you won't babysit, don't bother showing up. We don't need that negative energy. I read the last message 3 times. The words blurred as tears of sheer frustration pricked my eyes. If you won't babysit, don't bother showing up. I looked around my silent, lonely apartment. I looked at the coffee mug from yesterday crusting on my desk. I looked at the itinerary printed out on my corkboard, the highlighted confirmation number for the $14,000 lodge. I felt something snap. It wasn't a loud snap. It was quiet, like a dry twig breaking under a heavy boot. The betrayal hit me then, harder than the exhaustion, harder than the migraine. It wasn't just that they wanted me to work. It was that they didn't see me. They saw a wallet and they saw a servant, but they didn't see me. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis itself. I didn't reply immediately. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly to type, and the nausea from the migraine was starting to roll in waves through my stomach. I pushed my chair back, walked to the kitchen, and downed a glass of water, trying to regulate my breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. It was a technique my therapist had taught me to manage the stress of my job. Usually, it worked. Tonight, it felt like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. I needed to hear their voices. I needed to know if this was real, if they truly understood what they were saying, or if this was just text-based bravado. Text messages could be misconstrued. Tone gets lost. Maybe Mom didn't realize I had paid for everything. Maybe Dad forgot that I was the one who organized the entire logistics chain of this trip. I dialed my mother's number. It was late, but I knew she'd be up packing. She always packed days in advance. Hello, her voice was clipped, tight. Not the warm greeting I usually got when I called to tell her I'd transferred money into their account for groceries. Mom, I said, my voice sounding raspy even to my own ears. I just saw the group chat. Are you serious? Grace, honestly, I don't have time for this drama right now, she sighed, the sound of a zipper rasping in the background. I'm trying to fit your father's heavy coat into the carry-on so we don't have to check a bag. You know how he is about baggage claim. I'm not talking about baggage claim, Mom. I'm talking about Carla telling me I can't come to Christmas unless I agree to be an unpaid au pair for a week. She didn't say that, Mom said dismissively. She said if you aren't going to pitch in, you shouldn't come. There's a difference. Family pitches in, Grace. That's what families do. Pitching in is doing the dishes, I said, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Pitching in is cooking breakfast one morning. Pitching in is not watching 4 children under the age of 8 for 8 hours a day while everyone else skis. I paid $14,000 for this trip, Mom. I paid for your flights. I paid for the house. There was a pause on the line. For a second, a fleeting second, I thought she might acknowledge it. I thought she might say, "You're right, honey, you've done enough, we'll figure it out." "Money isn't everything, Grace," she said, her voice dropping to that icy, disappointed register that had haunted my childhood. "You think because you throw money around you can just opt out of the hard work? Carla is a mother. She is tired in a way you can't possibly understand. You have your career, you have your quiet apartment, you have your weekends. Carla has nothing for herself. This is her vacation. You are providing the venue, yes, and that is nice, but your time is what we need. If you can't give your time, then your money just feels like a bribe to get out of being a sister." A bribe? My generosity, my hard work, the months of saving, the meticulous planning to ensure everyone had the right dietary restrictions met and the right pillows on their beds, it was a bribe. "So you agree with her?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "If I don't agree to the babysitting schedule, I shouldn't come." "I think if you come with this attitude, you're going to ruin it for everyone," Mom said. "So yes. Unless you can call your sister and apologize and agree to the schedule, maybe it's best you stay home. We don't want a sulking teenager in the corner. We want a family member." "Okay," I said. "Okay, Mom." "Good," she said, mistaking my defeat for submission. "Call Carla, fix this. We fly out in 2 days. Don't be late to the airport." She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, the silence ringing in my ears. I looked at the reflection of myself in the dark window, pale, dark circles under my eyes, hair in a messy bun. I looked pathetic. But as I stared at my reflection, a strange calm began to settle over me. It wasn't peace. It was the cold, hard clarity of a system failure. When a server crashes, you don't scream at it. You isolate the variable, you cut the connection, and you reboot. They thought I was trapped. They thought that because I had already paid, I was committed. They thought that the sunk cost fallacy would force me into submission. They thought that my desperate need for their approval would make me bow my head and change diapers in a luxury chalet while they drank hot cocoa on the slopes. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. I walked back to my desk and opened my laptop. I logged into my email. I pulled up the folder labeled Christmas 2025. I opened the confirmation email for the Grand Timber Lodge. I scrolled down to the bottom, to the fine print, the section I had obsessively checked and double-checked because I was a project manager at heart, and I planned for every contingency. Cancellation policy: full refund if canceled 48 hours prior to check-in. 50% refund if canceled 24 hours prior. I looked at the clock. Check-in was Friday at 4:00 p.m. It was currently Wednesday morning, 12:15 a.m. I had exactly 39 hours and 45 minutes to get 100% of my money back. The flights were booked on my Amex Platinum, fully refundable business class for the parents. The economy tickets for Carla and her brood were non-refundable unless canceled within the 24-hour window, which had passed, but I had purchased the cancel for any reason insurance for an extra $200 because I knew kids got sick. I didn't start clicking yet. Not just yet. I needed to understand exactly what I was up against. I needed to see the full scope of the rot before I cut it out. To understand why this hurt so much, you have to understand who I was to them before I became the ATM. I was the middle child, the peacemaker, the one who didn't cause trouble. Carla, 4 years older than me at 36, was the firstborn, the princess. She had been a beauty pageant kid, then a popular cheerleader, and now she was the professional mom. And I don't mean she was just a stay-at-home mother, which is a hard job. I mean she made motherhood her entire personality, her shield, and her weapon. She had married Jude straight out of college. Jude, 38, worked in sales, though I was never quite sure what he sold, and he seemed to switch companies every 18 months. He was the kind of guy who wore polos that were too tight, spoke too loudly at restaurants, and always forgot his wallet when the check came. Then there was Elsie, 25, the baby. Elsie was currently finding herself in grad school for art history, living in an apartment our parents paid for. She idolized Carla because Carla let her be the cool aunt who popped in to play with the kids for an hour and then left when the diapers needed changing. I was the anomaly. I was the nerd, the one who liked math, the one who went to engineering school, the one who moved to the city and got fancy, as Dad liked to say. For the last 10 years, I had tried to bridge the gap with money. When Carla's husband lost his job 3 years ago, I paid their mortgage for 6 months. I didn't lend it, I gave it. Carla never said thank you. She just posted on Facebook about how God always provides. When Mom needed knee surgery and the insurance copay was $3,000, I swiped my card. When Elsie needed a new laptop for school, I bought her a MacBook Pro. I thought I was buying love. I thought I was buying a seat at the table. But I was just buying a ticket to the service entrance. I opened the family group chat again. It was buzzing with activity. Elsie, at Grace, seriously, don't be a brat. Carla needs this. Plus, the lodge looks huge. You can just chill with the kids and watch movies. It's not hard work. I'd do it, but I really want to learn to snowboard this year, and Jude said he'd teach me. Jude, yeah, Grace, come on. We're all a team here. It takes a village, right? Don't leave us, ha. Ng. Carla, she's seeing the messages. She's just ignoring us. Typical. Paige, give her time. She'll come around. She knows how much this means to your father. They were discussing me like I was a stubborn toddler refusing to eat broccoli. They were completely unconcerned with my feelings, my exhaustion, or my financial contribution. I looked at Jude's message again. It takes a village. That phrase, it was Carla's favorite weapon. It takes a village always meant Grace pays for it or Grace does the work. I remember the last family vacation 3 years ago. We went to the beach. I paid for the rental house then, too, a smaller one, not a mansion. I ended up sleeping on the pull-out couch because Carla needed the master bedroom for the kids and Mom and Dad needed the second bedroom because of Dad's back. Elsie took the third bedroom because she needed privacy to study. I spent that entire week grocery shopping, cooking for 9 people, and cleaning sand out of the shower. I didn't sit on the beach once. And now, they wanted to upgrade the exploitation. Carla wasn't just entitled, she was predatory. She sniffed out weakness. She knew I was burnt out. She knew I was desperate for connection. And she had weaponized the parents against me to seal the trap. She was relying on the fact that I was the good daughter, the fixer. I looked at the clock again, 12:45 a.m. My phone buzzed with a direct message from Jude. Jude, hey G, listen, I know Carla can be intense, but she's really stressed. Just say yes, okay? For the kids. They're so excited to see Auntie Grace. Don't disappoint them. Plus, we really can't afford a nanny, lol. You know how it is. He included a picture of the 4 kids, holding up a sign that said, "We love Auntie Grace." It was a staged photo. I could tell because the handwriting was Carla S., and the kids looked bored, holding the paper while watching TV. It was emotional blackmail, pure and simple. They were banking on my guilt. They were banking on my fear of missing out. But as I looked at that photo, at Jude's, lol, at the memory of my mother calling my generosity a bribe, something shifted permanently in my chest. The grief of losing the family I wanted was being replaced by the cold fury of realizing who the family I had actually were. I wasn't their daughter or their sister. I was their sponsor. And sponsors can pull funding when the terms of the contract are violated. I cracked my knuckles. The migraine was still there, but it was distant now, pushed back by a surge of adrenaline. Phase 1, I whispered to the empty room. I navigated to the airline website first. The glow of the laptop screen was the only light in my apartment. My finger hovered over the trackpad, the cursor trembling slightly over the red button that read cancel booking. It wasn't just a button, it was a detonation sequence. For a moment, the old Grace tried to intervene. The Grace who was 6 years old and desperate for her big sister to let her play with the Barbies. The Grace who was 16, tutoring Elsie in algebra so she wouldn't fail, only to have Elsie take the credit. The Grace who had spent a decade believing that if she just wrote a big enough check, she would finally be indispensable. Their family, the old Grace whispered, "You can't do this. It's nuclear, think of the kids." I closed my eyes and pictured the kids. I loved them. I truly did. But then I pictured the reality of the week ahead. Me, trapped in a lodge with 4 screaming children, wiping noses, breaking up fights, heating up nuggets, while Carla and Jude posted selfies from the ski lift captioned "Power Couple." I pictured my parents sipping wine by the fire, nodding approvingly at Carla's parenting, while I was upstairs trying to get a toddler to sleep. I remembered the text, "If you won't babysit, don't bother showing up." "Okay," I whispered, "I won't." I clicked. The screen buffered, a spinning wheel of doom. Then a pop-up, "Are you sure? This action cannot be undone." I clicked yes. Another pop-up. "Your refund of $14,250 will be processed to the original form of payment within 5-7 business days." The breath that left my body felt like I was expelling a lifetime of smoke inhalation. My shoulders dropped 3 inches. I didn't stop there. I opened a new tab for Delta Airlines. I pulled up the itinerary. 6 passengers, 4 checked bags prepaid, priority boarding. I selected all. I hit cancel. Because I had bought the cancel for any reason insurance for the economy seats, ironically, to protect myself from their unreliability, I was able to recoup 80% of their ticket costs in travel credits to my account. The business class tickets for Mom and Dad were fully refundable to my card. I watched the confirmation emails roll in. Ping, ping, ping. It was done. The trip was vaporized. But the adrenaline didn't fade. Instead, it sharpened into a cold, investigative focus. My Project Mana. Jur Brain was fully online now. I started thinking about the desperation in their texts. "We can't afford a nanny. Jude and I haven't had a real vacation in years." Carla and Jude lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in a good suburb. They drove leased luxury SUVs, a Range Rover for her, a BMW X5 for him. Jude was always talking about his numbers and his bonuses. Carla wore Lululemon exclusively and got her hair highlighted every 6 weeks at a salon that charged $300 a pop. Why was a $2,000 nanny fee for a week impossible for them? Why was the free lodging not enough? Why did they need me to be the labor, too? I opened a new browser window, incognito mode. I started with the basics, LinkedIn. I searched for Jude Harrison, Regional Sales Director at Apex Solar Solutions. I looked at the employment dates, Jan 2023, present. "Okay," I muttered, "looks normal." But then I went to the company page for Apex Solar Solutions. I scrolled through their recent posts, nothing about Jude. I looked at their Meet the Team page. It hadn't been updated in a while, but there was a generic email for HR. I tried a different angle. I went to the county clerk's website for their town. Public records are a beautiful thing if you know where to look. I typed in their address. The search results loaded, and my jaw tightened. Notice of default filed October 12, 2025. They weren't just tight on cash. They were in pre-foreclosure. They were 90 days behind on their mortgage. I stared at the screen, the stark black letters confirming a reality I hadn't let myself see. All the rich posturing, the dinners they couldn't pay for, the flashy cars. It was a house of cards. I dug deeper. I checked the civil court records. Judgment, Discover Bank versus Jude Harrison. Amount, $18,400. Status, unsatisfied. Judgment, American Express versus Carla Harrison. Amount, $12,200. Status, pending. "Oh my God," I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. They were drowning. They were absolutely destitute. Suddenly, the pieces slammed into place. This wasn't just a vacation for them. This was a run from reality. They needed this trip to maintain the facade of the successful upper-middle-class family. They needed the photos. They needed the story. And more importantly, they needed me to babysit not just because they were entitled, but because they literally couldn't afford a single extra dime. If they had to pay for childcare, they couldn't afford to eat out. They couldn't afford the lift tickets. My $14,000 wasn't a gift, it was their lifeline. It was the rug covering the hole in their floor. And I had just pulled it out. A strange, dark realization washed over me. By canceling this trip, I wasn't just ruining Christmas, I was exposing them. Without the distraction of the luxury Aspen getaway, the family would be sitting at home. Mom and Dad would go to Carla's house for Christmas dinner. They would see the unpaid bill notices on the counter. They would see the stress cracks in the marriage. I had the leverage, I knew the truth. But I didn't send a text, I didn't warn them. If I told them now, they would spin it. They would beg. They would gaslight me into saving them one last time. Grace, we're in trouble, you have to help us, we'll pay you back. No. They told me if I didn't babysit, I shouldn't show up. They set the terms, I was just following them. I closed the laptop. I walked into my bedroom, pulled the duvet up to my chin, and for the first time in 6 months, I slept without setting an alarm. Thursday passed in a blur of quiet anxiety. I went to work, virtually, and was surprisingly productive. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, but it was usually just a generic, "Are you packing?" meme from Elsie or a passive-aggressive, "We're so excited, see you at the airport," from Mom. They were still pretending I was coming. They were playing chicken. They thought if they just ignored my refusal, I would show up at the gate with my luggage and my credit card, ready to submit. I didn't reply to any of them. Friday morning arrived, the day of the flight. Their flight was scheduled for 10:30 a.m. They would be getting to the airport around 8:30 a.m. to check bags. I woke up at 7:00 a.m., made a pot of expensive coffee, and sat on my balcony wrapped in a blanket. It was cold in the city, the sky a stark, steel gray. At 8:15 a.m., my phone sat on the bistro table in front of me. I stared at it like it was a bomb timer counting down to 0. 8:30 a.m. 8:42 a.m. BZZZZZ. It started. Incoming call, Carlet. I let it ring. Incoming call, Carlet. I let it ring again. Incoming call, Dad. I picked up the mug, took a slow sip, and watched the screen light up. Incoming call, Elsie. Then the text started rolling in. Carla, Grace, what is going on? Jude, we're at the kiosk. It says invalid reservation. Did you change the flight info? Paige, Grace, pick up your phone immediately. We are at the counter and there is a pro. Blem with the tickets. Carla, call me right now. I took a deep breath. My heart was hammering, but my voice, when I tested it out loud, was steady. Hello. I picked up the phone on the next ring. It was Mom. Grace, she shrieked. It was a sound I hadn't heard since I was a teenager. Where are you? We are standing at the Delta counter and the agent is telling us the tickets were canceled. All of them, even ours. I know, I said. The silence on the other end was absolute. The background noise of the airport, the announcements, the rolling suitcases seemed to amplify. What do you mean you know? Mom's voice dropped, trembling with a mix of confusion and dawning horror. I canceled them, I said calmly. And I canceled the lodge, and the rental SUV, and the dinner reservations. You what? I heard rustling, and then Carla's voice exploded into the speaker. She must have snatched the phone. Are you insane? Carla screamed. I actually had to pull the phone away from my ear. We are at the airport. The kids are crying. We have all our gear. You canceled the trip. Why? Because of the babysitting thing? Are you seriously that petty? I'm not being petty, Carla, I said, leaning back in my chair. I'm following instructions. You explicitly said in writing, if you won't babysit, don't bother showing up. Our parents agreed with you. They said if I didn't agree to the schedule, I shouldn't come. That was a figure of speech, Carla screeched. You psychopathic B*TCH, you can't just cancel a $14,000 vacation because your feelings got hurt. Fix this. Fix this right now. Get the agent on the phone and uncancel it. I can't, I said. I got a full refund. The money is back in my account. The lodge is already rebooked by someone else. I checked the website this morning. And the flights are sold out. You got a refund. Carla's voice cracked. Yes, since I paid for everything, the refund came to me. But what about us? She wailed. We took time off work, we packed, we told everyone we were going to Aspen. What are we supposed to do? I don't know, Carla, I said. Maybe you can go to the park, or just hang out at home. You said you wanted family time. You can have family time at your house, it's free. Dad, Carla yelled, her voice moving away from the phone. Dad, talk to her, she's lost her mind. There was more fumbling, and then my father's heavy breathing filled the line. Grace, he boomed. He used his disappointed father voice, the one that used to make me cry instantly. This has gone too far, you have embarrassed us. You have stranded your sister and her children. I order you to fix this. Pull out your credit card, book us on the next flight, and find us a hotel. I don't care what it costs. No, I said. Excuse me. I said no, I'm not rebooking anything. I'm not spending another dime. We are your family, Dad shouted. You have an obligation. I have no obligation, I snapped, my voice finally rising, the anger I had suppressed for 3 days finally cutting loose. I was giving you a gift, a $14,000 gift, and instead of saying thank you, you handed me a shift schedule. You told me my presence was conditional on my servitude. You told me that if I didn't work for you, I wasn't welcome, so I removed myself. And since I am the vacation is gone. You are being selfish, Dad spat. You have all this money and you hoard it. I was spending it on you, I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. I was literally spending it on you, but that wasn't enough. You wanted my labor too. You got greedy, Dad. You all got greedy. And now you have nothing. Grace, Mom's voice came back on, sounding tearful now. Please, the neighbors. We told everyone. Jude told his boss he was going to Aspen. Jude doesn't have a boss, Mom, I said. The line went dead silent again. What did you say? Carla's voice came back, sharper this time, but with a tremulous edge of fear. I had dropped the first grenade. Now it was time to level the building. I said Jude doesn't have a boss, I repeated, my voice dropping to a cool, factual tone. I know he was let go from Apex Solar in August. I checked his employment status. You spied on us, Carla hissed, but the defensive fury was paper-thin. I did my due diligence, I said. And while I was at it, I saw the notice of default on your house, Carla. October 12th. You're 90 days behind on your mortgage. I heard a gasp. It sounded like Mom. That's a lie, Jude shouted from the background, though he sounded panicked. She's lying, Linda. She's just trying to hurt us. Am I asked. It's public record, Jude. Discover Bank sued you for $18,000. Amex is suing Carla for $12,000. You guys are broke. You're completely insolvent. Grace, stop it, Mom whimpered. Why are you saying these terrible things? Because you need to know why they needed E to babysit so badly, I said, relentless. They didn't just want a break. They couldn't afford a nanny. They couldn't afford a lift ticket. They couldn't afford a burger at the lodge. They needed my all-inclusive trip to hide the fact that they are drowning. And you, I addressed my parents directly now, you enabled it. You pressured me to be their servant because you didn't want to look at the mess their life actually is. We didn't know, Dad muttered. Carla, is this true? I could hear the chaos unfolding on their end. The airport terminal was the worst possible place for this conversation. I could hear the kids starting to whine in the background, sensing the tension. It's temporary, Carla screamed, her voice breaking into hysterical sobs. Jude has a lead on a new job. We just needed this week. We needed to reset. We needed to look successful so Jude could network. You ruined everything, Grace. You ruined our lives. I didn't ruin your life, Carla, I said. You spent money you didn't have to impress people who don't care. And you tried to use me as your ATM and your nanny to keep the charade going. I'm just the one who turned the lights on. You have to help us, Carla pleaded, switching tactics instantly from rage to begging. Grace, please, if we don't have this trip. We promised the kids, we have nothing for Christmas. We didn't buy gifts because we thought the trip was the gift. Please, just rebook it. I'll babysit myself, I swear. Just get us on a plane. It was a powerful pull. The sound of my older sister, the one I had idolized, begging me. The thought of the kids waking up on Christmas morning with nothing. But then I remembered the text, "Don't bother showing up." And I remembered the foreclosure notice. If I booked this trip, I was just enabling them to ignore the fire burning down their house for another week. They didn't need a ski trip. They needed a bankruptcy attorney. I can't help you, Carla, I said, and I won't. You have the money, she screamed. You said you got the refund. Send it to me. If you won't take us, send me the $14,000. We can save the house. No, I said. It's family money, Dad shouted. Grace, if she is in trouble, you help her. Transfer the funds to your sister, right now. I can't, I said. It's already gone. What? I put the refund toward my student loans, I lied. Well, it was a half lie. I intended to put it toward my mortgage principal, but the effect was the same. The transfer is already initiated. The money is gone. I have $0 available for you. You spiteful, hateful little. Mom started, her voice venomous. I'm hanging up now, I said. I'm going to go enjoy my staycation. I suggest you guys go home and have a family meeting about your finances. Jude, good luck with the job hunt. Carla, maybe sell the Range Rover. Grace, if you hang up, you are dead to us, Dad threatened. Do you hear me? Don't expect a call on Christmas. Dad, I said, my voice surprisingly soft. After this week, that's the best gift you could give me. I tapped the red button. The call ended. I sat there in the silence of the city morning. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was the adrenaline crash. I felt lighter. I blocked their numbers, all of them. Mom, Dad, Carla, Jude, Elsie. I even blocked the landline. I went inside, opened my laptop, and booked a week-long stay at a local luxury spa hotel downtown. Just me, no skiing, no cooking, and definitely no babysitting. But I knew it wasn't over. They were cornered animals now. The airport scene was just the opening act. The real explosion would happen when they got back to that house they were about to lose. My peace lasted exactly 48 hours. I was at the hotel spa, wrapped in a plush white robe, sipping cucumber water and reading a trashy novel when the receptionist approached me. She looked uncomfortable. Ms. Grace, she whispered. There's a group of people in the lobby demanding to see you. They say they're your family. They're causing quite a scene. I sighed, closing my book. Of course. They couldn't get through to my phone, so they came to find me. I had foolishly posted a photo of my hotel room view on my private Instagram story, forgetting that Elsie followed me. Send security, I said initially, but then I paused. No, if I didn't face them, they would just hunt me down at my apartment later. I needed to end this. Publicly, definitively. I'll come down, I said, but please have security stand by. I didn't change out of my robe. I wanted them to see exactly what I was doing, relaxing, spending my money on myself. I took the elevator down to the lobby. It was a grand, marble-floored space with a crystal chandelier and hushed acoustics that were currently being ruined by my father's booming voice. I am her father. I have a right to know which room she is in. They were all there. Mom, Dad, Carla, Judd. And even Elsie. The kids, thankfully, were not with them. They looked haggard. Carla's eyes were swollen, Jude looked unshaven and manic, and my parents looked like they had aged 10 years in 2 days. When the elevator doors opened and I stepped out, the lobby fell silent. Grace, Mom cried out, rushing forward, but stopping when a large security guard stepped in her path. "What are you doing here?" I asked, tightening the belt of my robe. "I'm on vacation." "Vacation?" Carla shrieked. "You're sitting in a luxury hotel 5 miles from your apartment while we are losing everything." "You were losing everything long before I canceled the trip, Carla," I said, my voice projecting clearly across the lobby. A few guests looked up from their coffees. "Don't rewrite history." "You have to fix this," Jude stepped forward, his desperation palpable. "Grace, listen, we can't go back to the house. The locks were changed." I blinked. "What?" "The bank," he muttered, looking at the floor. "They moved faster than we thought. We got home from the airport and the notice was on the door. We have 24 hours to vacate, but they already changed the locks on the back doors. We have nowhere to go." "And you thought you'd come here?" I asked. "To my hotel." "You have room," Mom said, her voice trembling. "You have a suite, don't you? And you have money. You can pay for rooms for us, just until we sort this out." "Sort what out?" I asked. "There is no sorting this out, Mom. They are bankrupt. They have no jobs, they have no home. And instead of dealing with it, you guys helped them try to scam a vacation out of me." "It wasn't a scam," Dad yelled. "We were trying to protect the family image." "The family image?" I laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "Dad, look around you. You're screaming in a hotel lobby. Your daughter is homeless. Your son-in-law is a fraud. The image is dead." I looked at Carla. She was weeping silently now. "Carla," I said, "I'm sorry you lost your house. Truly, that is terrible for the kids, but I am not your savior. I offered you a vacation and you spat in my face. You tried to make me a servant, and now you want me to be a housing shelter." "Where are we supposed to go?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but not here and not my apartment." "You are heartless," Elsie chimed in, glaring at me. "You have so much and you won't share." "I did share, Elsie," I said, turning to her. "I bought you your laptop. I paid for your tuition last semester. I have shared and shared and shared. And all it got me was a demand to babysit while you learned to snowboard. The well is dry." I turned to the security guard. "I'd like them removed, please. They are harassing a guest." "Grace, no." Mom grabbed for my arm, but the guard intercepted her. "Please leave the premises," the guard said firmly. "You can't do this to your mother," Dad shouted as they were herded toward the revolving doors. "I didn't do this," I called out, my voice steady. "You did. You chose the favorite. Now let the favorite support you." I watched them be escorted out. It wasn't a triumph. It was a funeral. I was watching the death of my family unit. It was ugly, and it was sad, and it was absolutely necessary. I didn't stay at the hotel. I checked out an hour later, went to my apartment, packed a bag, and drove 3 hours to a small cabin I found on Airbnb in a different state. I needed to be somewhere they couldn't find me. Christmas Day came and went in silence. I spent it hiking in the snow and drinking hot cocoa by a fire I built myself. It was the loneliest Christmas of my life, but it was also the most peaceful. The aftermath played out over the next few months, mostly through third parties and public records. Carla and Jude had to move into my parents' 2-bedroom condo. 6 people in a 2-bedroom retirement condo. From what I heard, it was a nightmare. The peace my parents had tried so hard to keep was shattered instantly by the reality of living with 4 screaming children and a resentful, unemployed couple. Jude ended up filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The sales job he was bragging about never materialized. He's currently driving for Uber. Carla had to get a job. She works as a receptionist at a dental office now. No more Lululemon, no more $300 highlights. As for me, I kept my blocks up for 3 months. Then, in March, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Mom. It wasn't a great apology. It was filled with excuses. We were just so stressed. We didn't know how bad it was. But at the end, there was a line that mattered. "We realize we took you for granted. We miss you. Not your money, just you." I didn't reply immediately. I'm still taking my time. I've started therapy to deal with the guilt and the anger. My therapist says I need to mourn the family I wanted so I can accept the family I have, from a distance. I did eventually reach out to Elsie. We met for coffee. She apologized, admitting that living with Carla and the kids had opened her eyes to how entitled they were. She's focusing on her own life now, trying to be independent. I haven't spoken to Carla or Dad yet. I'm not ready. But I did do one thing. I took the money I saved from the canceled trip, the refund I told them was gone, and I put it into a trust fund for the 4 kids. They can't access it until they're 25, and neither can their parents. It's my way of being the cool aunt from a distance. I'm still providing, but on my terms. I learned that you can't buy love and you can't buy respect, but you can buy your freedom. And $14,000 was a small price to pay for mine.